All right, good evening. I will call to order this meeting of the Cotati City Council and the successor agency to the former Cotati Community Redevelopment Agency. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Councilmember Savage.
Here.
Councilmember Sparks.
Here.
Councilmember Harvey.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lemus.
Here.
Mayor Ford.
Here. And before we get to our agenda items, we have two ceremonial items we like to do, land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to stand and join us if you wish. This is not an agenda item, Mr. Barrett. This is not. It is on. This is not an agenda item, Mr. Barrett. So, no, there's not a public comment time at this point.
Sir, I think you're circumventing placing these four agendized items, and you're making a prima facie case that you're trying to circumvent the Brown Act and the government code by trying to compose these or combine these into a policy. So I'm going to raise my objections now that you're doing this illegally, and in doing so, you're also disturbing the meeting.
Thank you. The City of Cotati recognizes that we're on the ancestral lands of the Coast Miwok, who are the original caretakers of this area. We respectfully acknowledge the indigenous peoples who have been stewarding and maintaining a relationship on this land as knowledge keepers for millennia. This acknowledgement does not take the place of authentic relationships with indigenous communities, but serves as a gesture of respect to the land we are on. And now the pledge. Thank you all. We next have two sets of minutes before us to approve from the regular meetings on March 25th and April 8th. Did any council members find any corrections that needed to be made? Okay, I'll open the minutes up for public comment. So if anybody wants to make a comment on the minutes of March 25th or the minutes of April 8th, in the chambers, please come forward.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I looked at your minutes, and I see in there that you had mentioned that you allowed public comment as a courtesy. I don't mind you characterizing that that way, but I do protest the fact that you did not put in there my comment that it isn't courtesy, it is required by law. And that was my statement. It's missing from your minutes. So if you're going to put in your slant or the council's slant, you need to balance it out with the public's. And one other point I'd like to make, there was no roll call on your agenda. There was no land acknowledgement on your agenda. There's no Pledge of Allegiance on your agenda. You shouldn't even have taken those actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the chambers? Yes, Mr. Barrett.
For the benefit of the audience and the City Council, my name is George Barrett. I'm a former City Council member here in Cotati, and no matter how many numerous times I remind the mayor of this fact, he refuses to acknowledge me in a professional way according to proper rules of etiquette. Regarding the last minutes of April 8th, I concur with the fact that the minutes should reflect that the mayor erred in trying to declare he was actually affording the public and the council a courtesy, when in fact there was no courtesy at all. Mr. Ford, the minutes should reflect that Mr. Ford, in attempting to avoid a Brown Act violation and a government code violation, tried to cloud his legal responsibility to allow the public to speak as a courtesy. It's a perversion, it's a cover-up, and I think you owe the council and the public an apology. The minutes should also reflect the fact that you accused me of disrupting the meeting when in fact is that you were in disorderly conduct, disrupting the meeting, And according to Penal Code 403, you are obstructing and disturbing a public meeting. You can be charged with that as a misdemeanor. The record and the minutes should reflect that very fact. It's all on video. You were disruptive, and on a personal level, you were rude, condescending, and disrespectful. We have people here who come here and contribute to this city for weeks and years at a time, at no expense to the city whatsoever, offering you our insights, our intelligence, and so forth. The minutes should reflect this. Yet you whitewash the minutes. And as Ms. Lori Alderman had said years ago, our city clerk, Sarah Ann, took meticulous notes, recording the comments, and codified them in writing in our minutes. And they were a beautiful thing to behold. Then the city got away from all that because they thought it wasn't necessary to have a real record of what was going on because maybe there was a need to cover up your conduct. It's the only way I can figure it. The minutes need to reflect the fact that you were out of line, you were rude, you violated the council member's code of conduct, which is in the packet tonight. It's clear. That code of conduct does not apply to the citizenry, it applies to you. I know it came before me on the city council, and I voted against it because it's silly. Please amend the minutes to reflect what really happened at that last meeting. The mayor was out of line, and he owes the public and our city council a formal apology, or you should step down in disgrace.
Anybody else in the chambers? All right, we'll check with the Zoom audience.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori Alderman. Lori, you have the floor.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I have the same issues. Both of these minutes and actually the one you passed before it do not reflect what has been happening, that people have been, even though we mentioned the corrections of minutes as not showing the objections, you still passed them unanimously. Now you want to whitewash, as George says, these minutes of what's happened. We were not the disruption. We were objecting according to what is allowed to the Brown Act. And this is why you have empty chambers, because you do stuff like this. And I'm sure you guys are going to sit up there and you're going to pass the minutes without any discretion, because that's the kind of people you are. You've proven it over and over again. That's it.
Thank you.
There are no further hands, Mayor Ford. That will end public comment.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to check with our city attorney. So our minutes are, I believe, what we call action minutes. Is that correct? We record decisions taken and votes.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Any discussion or comments about the minutes? Yes, Councilmember Sparks.
Just a quick comment. I respect the comments that have been made so far, so in no way do I mean to diminish from them, but I feel like you've been doing a fair job conducting the meetings, and I don't feel that I'm owed an apology by you, so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Anybody else?
If I could, Mayor, I also understand that our recordings of our meetings are available for people to view at any time. So everything that's said and taken care of here in the chamber is recorded for others to view. So it would just be redundancy, really, to have them all written down in longhand, has kind of been my understanding.
Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, would somebody like to move to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
Both sets?
Yes, both sets of minutes.
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving the minutes of March 25th and April 8th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that carries 5-0. and I have a few announcements I need to read.
Mayor Ford, can you speak on this item, sir? Agenda item?
Mr. Barrett, it is not an action item. We have under,
Say one word about this, sir. It is an action item. One word. So
if
either
I say a
ask for
word,
or
it's an
open up for
action
public.
item.
Open up for public comment, sir.
City Attorney, may I ask, is it true that my saying a word constitutes an action item?
I don't believe it's an item under the Brown Act. You're just making a statement and reading the announcements that follow.
Okay, so I will continue with the announcements.
I'm gonna object to preserve my right of trial, sir. I'm gonna legally object.
Please be
You're
seated.
violating- I'll be finished. I need to put my objection on the record, sir.
It's on the record,
Thank you,
plenty of times. Thank you. Announcements. Meeting orientation for new attendees and viewers. In conformance with the Brown Act and the adopted City Council rules, the meeting agenda includes items labeled as action items where the City Council may consider the item. If the City Council considers the item, citizens will be afforded the opportunity to provide comments relevant to the item being discussed. The meeting agenda also includes a citizens' business item, which is the designated place on the agenda where citizens have the right to say whatever they wish. However, the Brown Act prohibits the City Council from taking action or considering any item that is not on this agenda to ensure that other members of the community who wish to provide comment are notified in advance through a properly noticed meeting agenda. B, Measure S supports police services, a variety of recreation programs for all ages, and the maintenance of our streets, parks, and public buildings. See details on the web at cotadicity.gov. C, citizens interested in receiving City of Cotati community alerts via text or email are encouraged to enroll with Civic Ready by signing up on the city's website, cotadicity.gov, under the How Do I link at the top of the homepage. D, have you noticed a streetlight out, pothole, or issues in a city park? We want to keep Cotati beautiful and running smoothly, so please let us know what needs to be fixed by going to the city website under How Do I and report a service request. And E, like always, we love to hear from you, so please feel free to contact the city at 707-792-4600 or info@cotadicity.gov. If you have a non-emergency issue after normal business hours, you can contact us at 707-792-4611. And of course, if you have an emergency, please contact 911. Continue to look for updates on the city's website and social media channels available on Facebook, Instagram, and Civic Ready. Our next item is item 4, approval of the final agenda. Do we have any proposed changes to the agenda today?
No proposed changes, Mayor.
Okay. So we'll move on to item 5, citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items. We'll start with Zoom for this one. I'll try to remember to move back and forth.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori Alderman. Lori, you have the floor.
I'm a little confused. Is this both citizens' business and consent?
Yes, I'm
Or
sorry.
is it-
I'm sorry, I didn't read the full title. Citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items. And I should, I'm sorry. Lori, we'll give you your full time back. Let me read the full announcement. I neglected to do that.
Why don't I go off and you come back on, okay?
Yep,
So-
we'll bring
okay.
it back after I read the small print. Any member of the public wishing to speak to the council on any items listed on the consent calendar or any matters not listed on the agenda that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the council is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to City Council Policy 2023-01, comments of any member of the public are normally restricted to a total of 3 minutes in length per person for matters not on the agenda, and a total of 3 minutes per person in length for any and all items on the consent calendar. The mayor may extend the time limit for a reasonable time where a disability accommodation has been requested. To facilitate public comment, the deputy clerk will alert speakers when there are 30 seconds remaining. Okay, and now to our first Zoom speaker.
Lori, you have the floor.
Hi. I'm just sort of overwhelmed by all that's happening there. You guys, there is so much going on in and out of this. This all needs to end. All the selective enforcement, today was manipulating FPPC investigations of the code enforcement attorney. There's so much going on, and you're keeping it from the rest of the people of Cotati. I'm just tired. I'm really sick today. I'm frustrated that you will not tell the truth. You will not tell the facts. You keep things in secret, and that's why you also usually have nobody in the room. There's Mike Saramello there, there's George Barrick, and there's Adina, and they're there because I invited them. But anybody else is not because of you. And this is all, the whole meeting is meant to be retaliatory to all of us for being citizens and active citizens. And you're just, I'm just tired of this. I want a city that's honest. I want people to be in reality, not this fairy tale utopia that you have in your heads of what really is happening in this city. There could have been a whole agenda here of things that mattered to the citizens. Weed abatement, senior services, workshops on anything, but you decide to go after us. How dare you, after all these years, to go, we fought these battles, these rules and things you're trying to, all that stuff you're trying to do tonight is just ridiculous that you've gone this far. And I would caution you against selectively and doing this legislation when you have a selective code enforcement action going on at the same time. You're going after a journalist, you're going after, and the two people especially who have filed civil rights suits and won most of the arguments, and federal judges have been appalled at your behavior in the past, and you doubled down with this kind of stuff. I just don't understand how you can be so out of touch. So that's about my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Ford, there are no further hands on Zoom.
Okay, I have some speaker cards for in the chamber's commenters. First is Adina Flores.
Good evening, Council. I'm a bit appalled after reviewing documentation that was provided by Ms. Alderman and Mr. Barrich, how much money has been spent by the city on selective code enforcement. The only reason he's being targeted is because he is a white man who identifies as Republican, and I find that absurd. It's an astounding amount of money that's been spent. So I do just wonder, in the royal world of wokeness, if he showed up and decided that he wanted to transition his gender, wouldn't you be charged with a hate crime? So I just want to understand hypocrisy. And further hypocrisy, I see that you just gave a cultural grant to Progressive Tribal Alliance, and I did have questions for Councilwoman Lemus because it was formerly announced on the website that you were some kind of strategic advisor to Mr. Jack Pollard. And that is concerning because I realized today they received a $171,000 grant from Governor Newsom's office. And so I'm presuming that was your involvement because I don't believe you're enrolled with the tribe. And the reason this is concerning is I'm referring to you because I know the woke white people don't know. But I go to the tribal council meetings. I never have seen you there. And Jack Pollard partnered with the Tri-County Dance Group, and their lead dancer for that dance group, Jeremiah Ortega, is currently in custody because he had possession of child pornography and sexually assaulted small dogs. And so I don't know why you would help that gentleman to get funding. The natives are very unhappy about this, and all of them are coming to me. So why were they just given a cultural grant? I don't appreciate the virtue signaling. As somebody biracial, I'm here because you're targeting a white man. We have, tokens being placed in the Native community that are just there to get grant funds because they're retired as a CEO. That doesn't sit well with me. So now I feel at this point, I have not been involved with the city of Cotati. I just now requested statements of economic interest for your contracted code enforcement officer, Robert Smith, and I received no response. I had to submit a complaint to the Fair Political Practices Commission, and I'm not sure why there was no response. I received a response from the FPPC, and they required him to file amended filings. So I'm barely involved, and already I can see why these individuals are frustrated. So I'd appreciate if you stop targeting them. Right now, the county just talked about, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. I'm in the middle as a whistleblower right now in 4 different cases. We had the SRJC stalker, Jordan Mead, Bolcho, Anthony Law, who just got out of prison. So I don't have time for virtue signaling. God bless.
Thank you. Next is Joanne Yeager. And I apologize if I didn't pronounce it correctly.
My name is Joanne Yeager.
You need to come up to the microphone. Thanks.
My name is Joanne Yeager, and I would like to talk about the park. I pick up the trash just as a citizen. And I'm appalled at all the cigarette butts, and I'm hoping that maybe we could, and they're right by the dumpsters, and I'm thinking maybe a lot of them are, not all of them, maybe we could put specific cigarette butt trash cans, and maybe that will encourage people to put them there. The last time I was here, I complained about the trash around Oliver's, and I'm happy to say that they cleaned it up. But the other side of the dollar store, that side, it's disgusting. There's trash in the bushes and the dirt, and it never gets picked up. I ran into a lady, I guess she was here the last time I complained about Oliver's, and she said, "Are you happy with Oliver's?" And I said, "Of course, it looks great, but this side looks bad." And she says, "Well, I'll talk to the owner," but nothing's been done. So I'm hoping, I'm proud of my city, and that's our shopping center, and I hate for it to look ghetto. If you go over to Grocery Outlet or Safeway, those shopping centers are spotless. Even the Dollar Tree area is spotless. And then there's the homeless. Specifically one lady, for me, Lori, 6 of us have taken her in. For me, it was, she followed me home, and then I found her in my carport. And I told her, I live in an HOA. You can't stay in my carport. And anyway, she was there, and it was 11:30 at night. I have a patio, and my dog will not relieve herself in my patio, so I have to walk her. And I was walking down the parking lot at 11:30 at night, and there she was in my carport, ordering me around. "Move your car back. The shed above my carport, 2 doors down, is not locked. Could I please secure it so it doesn't flap in the wind?" She's really horrible. And I've spoken with the other people that have taken her in, and she's out there. So now the last man, I was in the park, and the last man just dumped her off with all of her belongings.
Need to wrap up.
3 men have taken her in, 3 women.
You need to wrap up. Your time is up. So,
What can be done about her?
thanks. Thank you. and Cheryl from Cotati.
I'm a little short. I just want to say I'm very happy with Cotati. I'm a military brat, and I've lived all over the country, and I love Cotati. I love what you did to the Cotati Park. It's beautiful, but there are some problems over there. Lori, the one that she was talking about, she sleeps in the bathroom at night. She bathes in the bathroom. She washes her clothes in the bathroom, and then she comes out and puts them on the picnic table to dry. She's a real bad problem. She's very nasty and very sassy. She's told me off several times, and it's not very nice. I'm afraid that she's going to go off on somebody. There's lots of beautiful little children that run around the park and play. And also they have all of a sudden started bringing young disabled adults to the park. And it's fine. I don't have anything against that. I think that's wonderful. But the people that are supposed to be watching these disabled adults, they're mentally disabled. You can tell. They'll stand around and, ooh, you know, and do all this stuff. And so one of them asked if they could pet my dog, and I said, sure. He went down to pet my dog, and he squeezed his face so hard he yipped. They're not being watched properly to be in the park with the little children. They typically go right there where the cabana is and all the picnic tables. They lay on top of the picnic tables. They lay on the floor, on the ground. And so I'm just not very happy with that at all. Also, the only other thing I have to say is these little children are riding their electric motorcycles. I guess they make them now for 8 and 7-year-olds. They're riding them around the path in the park. And they have almost run over me several times while I'm walking my dog because they come up from behind me. And, you know, if we could put a sign at the beginning of the park saying that there's no electric bikes or, you know, sleeping in the park and stuff like that, it would be great because I really, really enjoy the park. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else in the chambers? Mr. Barrich.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I find it rather laughable that on announcements on E, it says, like always, we love to hear from you. But it seems like everything you're doing is going in the opposite direction. I think that you should have allowed Mr. Barrich to speak on this because on the very first thing, if a person objects to what you have written down here, we should be able to comment on that. And that's the meeting orientation for new attendees. You have the same nonsense in here that you've been trying to snow the people that they don't have the right to speak to non-action agenda items. The Brown Act does not differentiate between action items and non-agenda items. That is your city's view of how to run a meeting. That is not the law. Now, number 4, the approval of the final agenda. You didn't call for anything on that because you didn't have any changes. I would have liked to have come up and said, you know what? I would like you to take item 8A, consideration of updates to the city council conduct rules, and place that before citizens' business because I want to talk to that and I'd like to leave. I don't really care about anything else on your agenda, but you didn't afford me that. That is a problem. On citizens' business, you have the same problematic language you're going to consider in your update to the council rules and guidelines. You have a total of 3 minutes to speak to every item on the consent calendar. Well, you have a Measure S annual report. That alone could take 3 minutes. Approval of a letter requesting state funding support. That could take 3 minutes. I mean, if a person really wants to convey something to you, you are saying you would love to hear from people? It's laughable. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barrich.
It's Councilman Barrich. Mayor Ford. To the lady's comment that she loves Cotati, many of us love Cotati. It's the good, bad, and the ugly that we wrestle with, the bad and the ugly, that concerns a lot of people, that makes a lot of loving citizens come out and help you work on the bad and the ugly. There's a big cover-up going on here, and it is comprehensive and convoluted, as Lori Alderman has addressed. You think that you're above the law, and it was a federal judge that said he hoped he never saw Cotati in his courtroom again, yet you guys keep digging your hole even deeper. The Planning Commission last night opened up the land acknowledgement to public comment. Maybe you can take a lesson from them. Okay, they're obeying the law. They should be commended for obeying the law. Regarding the announcements tonight, I don't know why, again, you're reading the announcements verbatim as if people in this room can't read. You're flapping your lips, you want to listen to yourself talk. It's the same thing year after year. It never changes. There's no reason to read this aloud, especially when Ms. Sparks wants to get home at a reasonable hour. You're contradicting yourself. You don't need to read it. Also, on item D, here under announcements, it says, have you noticed a street light out, a pothole out, abandoned car, a code violation? Yes, hundreds of them over 30 years. I've reported to the city, and I've never gotten a response. Now, I won't say never. That's not right. The police department has been pretty good. As me being neighborhood watch captain on my side of town, they've been in communication with me, but this city council and city staff have been abysmal in getting back to us and loving to hear from us. What a farce. And for these nice ladies in the room who've come forward, you know, unless you're a Democrat, expect that you're not going to get any service from this city. You will not be placed on the blacklist if you're a Democrat. As to Mr. Savage's point about the minutes and the video log that we have, if you were here when we discussed the new technology of bringing in video and whether they should be officially part of the minutes, the council voted against it. They did not want the minutes part of the video part of the minutes because they are so accurate. Now, if any of you want to add the video recordings of a meeting to the minutes, I would applaud that. Then we don't need to do this longhand. But the reason we want to see more longhand in the minutes is because the council refused to put the video and audio recordings in the minutes as official. They don't want it that way. It can hurt them because they make so many mistakes. The city makes so many mistakes. You want to reach out to the public? Well, you're not doing a very good job of it. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else in the chambers? Okay, so that closes citizen business and public comment for consent calendar items. I trust, City Manager, you've taken some items under advisement that we heard about?
Yes, I have, and I would actually suggest, is it Joanne and Cheryl, before they leave tonight, if they could just provide your contact information to the clerk, and then we can follow up with them later on the items that they're concerned about.
Thanks. All right. That brings us to the consent calendar. There are 4 items. I need to recuse myself from item D, so I'm going to ask for a motion, unless, does anybody have anything they need to pull from the consent calendar? Okay. So I'll ask for a motion for items A, B, and C, and then I don't need to leave the room to recuse for a consent calendar action, but I'll ask the Vice Mayor to call for the vote for item D. So is there a motion to approve items A, B, and C?
So moved.
Second?
All right, all in favor of approving items 6A, B, and C, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and I'll hand it over to the Vice Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So on the consent calendar, item D, if I can get a motion to, this is approval of a letter on item D, so if I can get a motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, thank you. And then if you agree, then say aye.
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 Thank you. That passes.
And please note that I recused myself from that item. Okay, thank you. So on to item 7, direction on future agenda items. Do any council members have items they wish to place on a future agenda? Not seeing any, we'll move directly to our regular agenda. So item 8A, consideration of updates to the City Council Rules of Conduct. A few more changes after we just did some other changes to it. So we'll start with the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So the item before you tonight is some further updates to the city council rules. So this was last discussed in the April 8th meeting, and the proposed changes, as is outlined in the staff report, include moving up public comment on non-action agenda items to immediately following the call to order, which would then be renamed the call to order and roll call. And this is intended to give members of the public an opportunity to comment on any non-action agenda items at the start of the meeting, rather than waiting until later in the meeting. There's also other changes to clarify that the City Council will open any non-action item for public comment if there's any discussion, really at all beyond just simple council follow-up questions, or if there's any action being proposed. And lastly, the final agenda is proposed to be renamed Agenda Review, consistent with some neighboring cities. And it's no longer an action item. As you all know, it very frequently, or very infrequently, is an action item. So just to clarify that. Of course, if the council does want to make any changes to the agenda, then that would then become open to public comment. So that's pretty much it, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
And just a slight clarification on the agenda review, even if we have substantial discussion about changing the agenda, I would open it to public comment, yeah.
Correct, it would fall under the general policy, yeah.
Right, right. Any council questions on the staff report? Okay, oh, go ahead, Councilmember Harvey.
On item Q, it says repetitious or dilatory comments discouraged. It said, in accordance with the Brown Act, unduly long or repetitious comments may be ruled out of order by the proceeding officer. Who makes that determination? And under what legal rules is someone considered unduly long or repetitious, since we have time limits? So that's
Can you give a page?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 17 of 27 or 99 of the packet, item Q.
Yeah, there's more than one Q, so it looks
Oh,
like there's
sorry.
still some
You're
lettering
right.
issues.
So I just was looking
Yeah,
for
I
some
think-
legal guidance on that, and also what do you consider disruptive speech? So I was just looking for guidance from our attorney on that.
Yeah, so those are fairly commonly seen texts that you see in policies, city council policies. Those judgments are made initially by the presiding officer. The real standard is disruption, but often, you know, it's a mechanism for the mayor to ask people to move on and make comments that are relevant, that would be helpful to the council to make their decision. But ultimately, it's going to be very hard for us to stop somebody from being repetitious, right? Disruption is the real standard.
I'll just add too, from a meeting management perspective, oftentimes, you know, if there's a full room and everyone wants to say the same thing, it's not uncommon that the mayor will say, hey, if you're going to say the same thing, maybe, you know, you can consolidate so you don't, I mean, obviously people can comment, they have their 3 minutes, but it just manages the meeting better if they can
It says.
consolidate their comments.
Yeah, or designate a spokesperson.
Yeah.
It says, yeah. I just was curious. Thank you.
Anything else? Councilmember Sparks.
Yeah, a follow-up on that, if it's within our purview on this item, I think maybe just taking out the idea that they can be ruled out of order. I don't know if we can legally justify ruling comment out of order just because it's repetitious, so I would be okay with removing that from the rules.
Yeah, given that we do have time limits, I can't really imagine a situation where I'm going to rule somebody out of order for being repetitious within their 3 minutes. So, do you see any problem with removing that phrase?
I do not see any problem with removing it. Are you suggesting removing the entire sentence in accordance with the Brown Act, unduly long and repetitious comments may be ruled out of order by the presiding officer?
Is that what you were suggesting, Councilmember Sparks?
Maybe we could leave unduly long comments maybe ruled out of order, just to make it clear if people do go over their time limit, that can be ruled out of order, but remove the repetitious.
Oh, I see. Right, the time limit still, that's the definition of unduly long, I guess. So just remove the two words, or repetitious. Any objection to that on the council? Good, I don't want to be trying to make that judgment call. Anything else? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion? Wait, we just had questions so far, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. All right. That was more of a comment, so I moved my brain on. All right, so any more questions? All right, so public comment, and we'll open to the room first. Go ahead.
I want to make sure I don't forget anything. First off, I'd like to say you guys should probably get a copy of the First Amendment Coalition's Journalist's Handbook for dealing with the Brown Act. It tells you right in there what is disruptive. Being repetitious is one of the things. I don't mind if you take that out because it gives the people more freedom to say what they need to say, but that is one thing that is defined as disruptive. Swearing is not disruptive. Obscenities is not disruptive. The problem I have with these things, if you glanced or glossed over some of these things, and like I said during my comment on the on public comments, the idea of saying that you're going to run the non-agenda items to, or not non-agenda, non-action items to the beginning of the meeting, that's fine. You satisfied the Brown Act. I'll go along with that. But you cannot limit comment on non-agenda items to just 3 minutes for all of them. You might have 5 non-action items. We should be able to speak to each and every one of those for 3 minutes. Otherwise, you're not complying with the Brown Act. See, I think I've covered most of the other stuff on here. It seemed to me there was, I did want to make a comment. I did look at the Planning Commission meeting, and it was so funny because I know what happened at the April 8th meeting when you were so upset, Mr. Mayor, about the supposed disruption. And actually, Ms. Sparks made the comment that the meeting was carried on long because of this disruption. Well, I watched the PC meeting, and your chairman had no problem allowing comment on the items that you would not allow comment on. The meeting flowed perfectly fine and was over with. The public comment within 10 minutes and everything else proceeded on. So I don't see any necessity to do this stuff. And again, going back to the thing, if you want to hear from the public, you don't take these type of actions. I don't believe you should be taking the Pledge of Allegiance off. And frankly, like I said, you can't even say it if it's not on the agenda. You don't have it listed on your agenda. The roll call wasn't listed on your agenda. That announcement wasn't about the land acknowledgement, wasn't on the agenda. That is all totally wrong. I don't know what the problem is here other than you just don't want to listen to Mr. Barrett speak. And I'm glad George did get up here and say something about the audio recordings. The minutes are very important. They should be accurate, and Mr. Savage is wrong. People don't need to go hunting through a videotape looking to see what people said. It should be in your minutes. All that needs to be done. I think, I'm glad you're addressing this, but frankly, I don't see you going in the right direction totally. Like I say, putting those, the non-action items first, at least you're affording people a chance to speak before you consider the item, which is what the Brown Act says. But limiting it to an unreasonable amount of time, that's in the Brown Act too. That's a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Okay, let's check with our Zoom attendees.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori Alderman. Lori, you have the floor.
Hi. What you do is you use these Brown Act ones, such as this has been for 10 years now, 9 years, since 2016, when you started all these city council's rules. What you do is you use them to control certain individuals that are the few in the council chambers, the ones that are the opposing voices, rather than what they're meant to be used at, which is to control disruptions of large groups and processes for large meetings with lots of people in the audience. And there is no reason to put, again, more limits on input. You've been in court 3 times about free speech, and you're just making it, digging it in deeper and deeper for, and the things that I know that's been done behind the scenes here, it's ridiculous. If you want to believe this reality that everything's fine, and utopian in Cotati, it's not. You punish and you go after citizens. You selectively go after them. And this is just a continuation. This is retaliation of many retaliatory acts that we citizens get for speaking and showing the truth to you all with facts, not hyperbole like you get. And I'm just so tired of it. I want people to be honest. I want facts. 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I went in front of Judge Westmore. Didn't ask for a cent. All I wanted was change, and how things were in Cotati. I didn't ask for attorney fees. I did it by myself. I wrote it, a federal lawsuit without knowing anything. And you guys spent $50,000 to kill it. He did that with your tax attorney. You killed it with using the pandemic. On the day of the lockdown, he filed a motion to dismiss, knowing that I would not be able to have legal resources. This is the kind of stuff that goes on. It's not honest. It's not pure. It's evil and the way you guys sit up there and act like you know everything, you're not smarter than any of us. You're definitely not more moral than any of us. We are good people on this side, and you are ignoring us and demeaning us with every word you say. So I didn't want to go tonight because I get emotional. I'm starting to get emotional, so I'm done.
Thank you.
There are no further hands on Zoom, Mayor Ford. That will end public comment.
Okay. Closing public comment, and so now we're back to the item before us, the City Council Rules of Conduct changes. Any discussion? I would just like to say that I think that focusing public comment on items that we're going to consider is helpful to doing the work of the city, and saying the Pledge of Allegiance does not constitute consideration, in my view. I know not everybody agrees with that. So, any further discussion? Councilmember Sparks.
Yeah, I mean, what I had been hearing in previous meetings is that people in the public were asking us to move the non-agenda items so there'd be an opportunity to comment on things prior to them being, whether you want to consider it being considered or not, there'd be an opportunity to comment on it prior to it happening. And so I do think that we were genuinely trying to be responsive to some of the things that people are asking for, and I don't think we have evil intents. I mean, I really think we're trying to be responsive, so I feel badly that people don't see it that way, but that's all. So I'm supportive of these changes.
Okay, anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we adopt a resolution to approve revisions to the city council rules of conduct to clarify the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you all. We move on to item 8B, potential 2025 discussion topics for the Sonoma County mayors and council members. And we'll start with the staff report.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So the Sonoma County Mayors and Council Members Association has in addition to general membership, has a board of directors, and they recently asked each of the cities to have a discussion and come up and identify with their 3 priority issues. And I would say that although they didn't explicitly state this, the priority issues that they'd be looking for are priority issues that aren't just priority issues for us locally, but priority issues that could benefit from some regional action. So the board of directors is planning to meet the tentative date. I don't know if actually it's been finalized yet, but it's going to be May 22nd.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the board of directors is coming together on May 22nd to, all the cities will be talking about their top 3 priorities and whittling that down to a list of action items for the association to pursue. And this has been it's been a recent trend, and actually something that I think the cities have identified for a long time as kind of a deficiency. And so the group is becoming much more active in terms of trying to come up with joint, when there's mutual interest, joint projects to work on. And to come up with the staff report tonight, there's 3 possible topics just to start the conversation, but these came out of an initial conversation with the mayor, vice mayor, and myself, and we put education in Sonoma County, homelessness services in Sonoma County, and housing supply as 3 possible priority issues that could benefit from some regional collaboration. Education in Sonoma County. There's been a lot in the news, both from all the way from Sonoma State, which we're all very familiar with, Santa Rosa City Schools, and others that are dealing with enrollment issues and other just general funding issues. They tend to be connected, but a broader conversation, particularly about education in Sonoma County, could be a potential topic that would be a good fit for the association to weigh in on and potentially do something collectively on. Homelessness services in Sonoma County. So currently, the countywide platform for collaboration in homeless services is the Homeless Coalition Board, which currently we share a seat. Rohnert Park and us share a seat. Councilmember Elward with Rohnert Park is the current primary, and Councilmember Sparks is the alternate on that board. And so there's a couple, just not to restate what's in the staff report, but there's a couple cities and the county are called entitlement jurisdictions. So the county's an entitlement jurisdiction, and the cities of Santa Rosa and Petaluma are entitlement jurisdictions. And what that really means is that they receive funding for homelessness services, as well as a bunch of other types of social services as entitlement jurisdictions. For us, we pool our population with all the other smaller cities in Sonoma County, with the county's unincorporated population, to basically shift all of those federal, state, and local dollars to the county to act on our behalf, which is why the county takes the lead on those services. So what that means is that the Homeless Coalition Board is it's the joint board for a lot of funding around homelessness, but there's also these entitlement jurisdictions, the county, Santa Rosa, and Petaluma, that get their own revenue sources, and the Homeless Coalition Board is, ideally would be coordinating all that so that there's no repetition and things are spent in the best means possible. It is currently managed by county staff, and that's just the way it's been. There's been, several years ago, there was an update to the makeup of the coalition board to make it more effective, but it's still, and there's also a strategic plan, which I should mention, that was developed by that board. So a lot of the initial things have been put in place, but I do know that there's been conversations about making sure that all of these different entities are using their dollars in alignment and more, hopefully more effectively. And part of that is just data, like tracking and tracking the data and building confidence among the members that we're all that we're tracking all of our programs and that we have good metrics on which ones are working, which ones are not. Is the money being spent in the best use possible, in the best way possible? So recently, the county staff have expressed some openness to bring in experts to help us do that, and that's been a recent change. And so that's one of the reasons why this is on the list. And then finally, housing supply. I think we all know very well that it's critical that the state, region, and county produce housing supply across all levels of affordability, and the state's been continuing to push a lot of law around, preempting local authority or zoning for by right with greater density or parking requirements. So they continue to work at that, but there's really not a lot. I don't think there's a lot of blood left in that stone. So they're moving into impact fees. I expect we'll be seeing more legislation around that this year. And the one thing that we've seen very little of, which at least on the ground I can say we hear a lot from housing developers, is they can't get the money together, or it's just too expensive, or part of that's the cost of materials and labor, but part of it is the cost of financing. And in the public works world, there's things like a state infrastructure bank. There's mechanisms like that to help fund some projects. Recently, with BAFA, that was going to go, but then it never made it to the ballot because of organized opposition. That was a $20 million bond, and part of that, in addition to the bonded part of it was going to go into a revolving fund that would fund affordable housing projects. Of course, none of that happened, so at the Bay Area level, we don't have that, at least at this point. The state is currently working, the legislation is working its way through the legislature to do a $10 billion statewide affordable housing bond, which is half of the amount in a much bigger area, obviously. So I would expect that, it will produce units, but then you work through the money and then it's gone, and then what do you do then, right? So, a possible suggestion here is that if there was if there was a way that the state or the region or someone could set up a revolving fund, potentially just for affordable housing or whatever people deem to be the best use of that money, it could reduce the cost of borrowing, which is just another thing that hopefully would make developments a little bit easier to finance. Rather than borrowing at 7%, they could borrow at lower percent or maybe 0%, depending on how it's structured. But housing's housing, these are all very big, complicated problems: education, homelessness, and housing. And not one thing is going to solve it, but You know, I know the state's been working on the housing problem from the city, sort of the city obstructionist perspective for many years. And I think, you know, we're going to start seeing a change in focus to the impact fees part of it, but this is another part of, at least from what we've seen with developers, a major part of what's stopped them from moving forward is just the inability to finance projects or the cost of the financing. So anyway, 3 ideas. I'm sure there's probably others, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you guys have any. Thanks.
Are there any questions from the council? Councilmember Harvey.
Yeah, could you elaborate a little bit more on the education? What kind of discussion? Because that's not really within our subject matter jurisdiction. We have school boards that do that, and I know oftentimes people come to us and ask for different things. So are you expecting the school boards to come and talk to the mayors and council members? I just was a little confused by that one.
Well, I can start the answer. I think the idea is that the mayors and council members would just take a policy position with the Board of Supervisors, maybe the Measure I, as Measure I gets up to speed. There could be opportunities to either fill funding gaps or encourage consolidations. I know the Office of Education, County Office of Education, has certainly studied the issue, but you're right, it does ultimately rely on the local school districts to decide what they want to do. Some may want to, you know, with the potential for some additional funding like Measure I, they might voluntarily, to get access to that, they might voluntarily want to do some things, or there could be some school districts, I'm sure there will be, that are going to be in distress financially, and it'll just be a natural conversation. So I think that was the thinking behind that, at least in the primary school level.
Because there's not really anything per se that we can do, because we don't control the districts and we don't control their funding and we don't control much of anything. The only thing in the tidbit of what was in here was the after-school programs that we have. So from that perspective, that's kind of where we kind of have a nexus there. But that was just why I was a little bit confused about that. I just didn't know what we had to offer.
Great. And I'm going to ask that we save further conversation about that until after public comment, but I'll take more questions.
Yeah, I was just going to say quickly, I have some thoughts about and ideas about that I was going to bring back after comment. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? And are there any sort of one-liner other topics that you want to just say the topic right now before I open for public comment to see if that sparks other people's thoughts as well? Councilmember Sparks.
There was kind of a hot topic that was brought up last year in mayors and council members, was the library, MOU. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, there might be potentially more interest in following up on that this year.
And kind of as a tag to that, at the last mayors and council meeting, there was a lot of conversation around the LAPs that are coming up to be reviewed. Is that the right term, the LAP? The lady from the library was talking, and they're every 10 years.
That's the
JPA.
JPA, the MOU for the JPA.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, so that's the same issue.
Yeah, okay, good, okay. The only other thing I thought is the coordination of transportation amongst the different towns in the county. I know that's been some conversation. Is that already being worked towards a solution, or is that something that still needs material improvement?
Great. Okay. So a couple more ideas. So we got 5 out there right now: education, homeless services, housing supply, the library MOU, and transportation coordination. Anything else anybody wants to put? This isn't the last chance. I'm just...
Yeah, mobilizing residents. You know, I mean, there's so much needs, I think, throughout the communities, and a lot of instability. I think mobilizing residents in all of our communities.
All right. And with that, I'll open it up for public comment, see if we can get a few other ideas on the table. Anybody in the, I think it was supposed to go to Zoom first this time.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment on this item. Seeing no hands, Mayor Ford, that will end the Zoom portion of public comment. Thank you.
All right, anybody in the chambers wishing to comment on this? Okay, I will close public comment. So back to our discussion here. So I'm supposed to go to this board meeting on May 22nd with 3 topics, and we'll compare across the different cities and look for commonalities and try to think about where would it be most useful to have a unified city voice in the conversation. So what do people think about ideas? Go ahead, Councilmember
Thank you.
Sparks.
I think I'm going to take the wind out of my own sails for my council member report later. But one thing we discussed at our 2x2 meeting was that our desire to have a report on the nitty-gritty details of the financials for the Cotati-Roanoke Park Unified School District, including the funding formula that's used to fund our school district, because the way the funding formula works, there are winners and losers based on metrics in a lot of specific categories. And so if you look across the numerous school districts that serve Sonoma County and nearby counties, there's a huge disparity in the amount of funding that districts receive per pupil, and we're the losers in that formula in Cotati-Roanoke Park. So one thing that I would have an interest in seeing is a presentation or discussion about school district funding, kind of comparing that to the Portrait of Sonoma County and the Human Development Index, and seeing which districts are getting the funding, and is there a way that we could all come together to advocate with our legislators about funding school districts more equitably? I think that's something that needs to be addressed at the state level, and so we can have a advocacy role in that, even though we have no say over how the funding works.
So can I ask?
Go ahead.
So there's not a funding formula, there are multiple funding formulas?
There is a funding formula, but it depends. There are a lot of details in it. It depends on what percentage of your students meet certain thresholds of income or English language learner status, I think. And there are cutoffs, and if you fall just below or just above certain cutoffs, it has a big impact on your overall funding. And then there are basic aid districts, which their local property taxes fully fund the allotment that they get, and then they get to keep anything once they fill up their cup of how much they are entitled to. They get to keep additional local property taxes. So some school districts receive 3-4 times as much money per pupil, depending on that, just based on how that funding formula works. So there's a lot of disparities.
Superintendent shared with us, if I remember correctly, we're the 3rd largest school district in the county, but we receive the lowest per student funding. So, and our enrollment is steady, if not growing, and there's a lot of headlines now around declining school enrollment, and that seems to get a lot of everyone's attention. So I think it would be important in this type of a conversation that the particular need that we're looking at needs to be as high of a priority as the schools that are going through declining enrollments and those type of issues as well. There's more than just one issue.
So I guess my question, information is great, that would be awesome, but are you then suggesting that we would be providing funding from our general fund to help?
No,
Okay.
no, not at all. No,
Trying to get the.
what I'm suggesting is it is politically an incredibly thorny issue to touch anything related to how property taxes are divvied up, and I feel like the entire property tax funding of education system in the entire state is broken and needs some serious attention, and we can play an advocacy role in asking for our state legislators to pay attention and try to make some positive changes, and that's what I'm thinking.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Any other comments on any of the other ideas or new ideas?
Yeah, on the library, I know that the cities have a say, and what I had heard at the MCA was that there was maybe 39 million or something, and maybe if the cities have a say, this could be an opportunity for us to kind of have libraries kind of work maybe with education, maybe some reading programs where residents can kind of help in that too. There are some existing models that, maybe there could be some kind of nexus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. We did get at that last meeting a plea that we get involved with the library JPA renewal review. And I need to look at that more closely. Some cities are very unhappy with their current status with the library. So they want us to look into that JPA more. And they're similar, mainly around equity across different communities concerns. Some communities feel like their residents aren't getting the same services as some others. Okay, and so just think about some of these. I can see a discussion playing out sort of within and between the cities about, like, if we're talking education funding across different districts, the mayors and council members, I think, aren't going to want to get into a redistributing within the county kind of discussion. So we got to frame it as what's something that the cities can have a unified voice on to try to impact some change. So that'd be interesting to know if we have ideas about that for the library as well. Any housing supply, homelessness services, anything else that people want to comment on?
I will say that I know that SCTA is working with the transit operators to try to consolidate or coordinate transportation. So that was a question. They are actively working on that right now.
Yeah, we've heard about that for a year or so. What's it called? I forget.
They're mascots. They're working on that both from a Sonoma County perspective with the 3 operators we have, but then also as a bigger system with Golden Gate Transit and the ferry and the buses and, the whole kind of as a system, so.
My guess is if I go to this board meeting, that transportation services are not likely to be among most cities' top 3, is my guess. I think with homelessness and education and housing, like when we had that preliminary discussion, those just popped up right away. And then, so my sense is that the 3 that are in the report is likely that.
And mental health services.
Mental health services, you're right.
I mean, we say oftentimes it gets tied together with homelessness, but I think it's a bigger issue. I remember, I think it was last year, hearing, how few beds that we have. So even people in crisis, they don't even have beds to put them. So they're being held in emergency rooms. So something needs to happen there.
And then the beds we did have, they had mold and had to close down.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, they closed that unit for something like 6 months. It was incredible how long they were without any beds. And I'd be happy to go with a list longer than 3 and just fit in where as the discussion goes, say, yeah, that came up in our council too. But if so can you talk a little more about the mobilizing residents idea and topic and what the cities might be able to say as a unified voice about that?
Yeah, I think it kind of falls into volunteerism in all these different areas, because when I look at all these different things, homeless, education, all of this, the community can be involved, and if some people are just waiting to be asked to help in some of these different areas. So I think if we find alignment with other cities and can develop some sort of programs that residents can help with in some of these areas, then mobilizing residents to work on some of these different topics would be helpful. Because we can't really, the cities can't do it all, the county can't do it all, but I think residents can also have a hand in helping address some of these issues. Yeah, I mean, for example, the reading and education. Well, there's a program called Schools of Hope that we can get residents to help. And I know that I had a discussion with someone, and there's an issue with maybe what to do background on some people that are working with students on reading. But it's been done in the past, so maybe it's something that could be looked at as an example.
Yeah, that does seem like something that the cities together might be able to do more on than alone.
Yeah, and it also seems that, where is the funding for that? And do we need to kind of advocate for more of that funding to be able to come so those programs can happen? You mentioned background checks. So someone is probably getting that funding for that, and maybe it's just not being spent where it will do more good.
All right, I'm just going to poll, what are your top three? So take 30 seconds, read. Here's the list of 7 that I've got written down. There's a 3 in the packet: education in Sonoma County, homelessness services, housing supply. And then the 4 that I've written down that we've added are the library JPA, the mental health services, transportation, and mobilizing residents. And you can mix and match however you wish. Okay. Are you ready, John?
Okay.
Okay.
Education,
Okay.
mental health, and mobilizing residents. Do I have to give any, my thought, why or anything?
Let's
or
just go down the
okay.
list first,
Okay.
go down the row first and next. Are you willing to go next,
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
Mental health, yeah, education. And I kind of tie in education, I don't know, and library kind of together,
I see.
and mobilizing residents.
She found a way to get 4. Okay, Councilmember Harvey.
Housing, homelessness, and mental health.
Councilmember Sparks.
Education, library JPA, and mental health services. Just because I think those 3 are the ones that we can have a very targeted discussion on and maybe get something done. The others are very important, homelessness and housing, and I'm sure many, if you wanted to support those as the tides were turning in the conversation, I'd be fine with that, but they just seem like really big topics that are difficult to tackle.
And I'd probably say housing, homelessness, and mental health. Sorry, I'm just finishing writing down. So everybody said mental health. Two people said homelessness. 2 people said housing. 1 person said education. Well, 1.5 people said education, and 1.5 people said...
2.5 people on education.
Oh, okay, 2.5. Oh, yeah, John, Sylvia, and Laura, right. And library came up twice, and mobilizing residents came up twice, if I got that right. So mental health for sure, mental health services. And it looks like education. And then there's a whole bunch for the 3rd spot. So is it okay if I take that list to the meeting? Mental health services, education in Sonoma County, and then
A bunch.
yeah, like 3 other things that came up and that we all had some interest in, and I'll see how the discussion goes and plug them when
I
I
think
can. Yeah, go ahead.
Laura made a good point of what can you actually bite off and do and
Yep.
impact. And if all 3 are really big issues, are we going to be able to do anything? It'd be nice if at least 1 or 2 are more bite-sized.
Yeah.
We feel like we could have a more immediate impact on, as opposed to all 3 being the big 3.
Right. It wasn't clear in the request from the clerk, but my understanding of the discussion was what they're looking for is items where it will be useful to do some public messaging as unified cities, not an issue where we're going to solve the problem, but where our unified voice might be helpful. So even if it's a big thing, if it's helpful to have all the cities speaking with one voice, and if we could actually agree on what to say, then that's okay.
Yeah.
But I like your point that it'd be nice to have one thing, like the library JPA is something that's going to happen this year, so if we want to have a serious voice in it, we got to take it up. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So we haven't had an update on the Homeless Coalition Board. Is there do they have, a schedule or something when they're going to get, we just haven't heard much is there nothing to report, or I don't know what to ask?
Yeah, and there's going to be, I believe tomorrow, a meeting, so I can get the report on it from our representative and be able to report out on that at our next city council meeting. Or we could request for her to come give us an update as well, if you'd like.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more not just from the individual, individual representatives, but more kind of here's what the whole board is kind of like what we had from the superintendent on the school, kind of here's all the things that are going on, have the actual board prepared report maybe.
We could certainly reach out and try to get somebody to come speak with us, yeah.
Okay.
We could also ask our representative, Jackie Elward, to come speak with us. I mean, she is representing both of us, both cities if we wanted to. So you can consider that, I don't know. Okay, so what I've written down is, let's see. I've got mental health services and education in Sonoma County, top two, and then I've got library JPA, mobilizing citizens, and housing supply as sort of in the mix for the third, and homelessness services.
That's what I got as well. Yeah, there was one tweener there that picked up both.
Which was the the education
the
and library?
/JPA.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, do I really need a motion, or is this just?
Well, I think, so one clarification on the mental health services.
Yeah.
I think what I heard was the treatment facilities in particular, the deficiency. I know the CSU was brought up, the crisis stabilization unit was brought up.
Residential facilities in particular, is that, or is it more broad?
Yeah. I guess.
I don't know what they're doing. All we've heard is, kind of the fallout. So it would be nice to know really what's going on. And, are we, turning people away because we don't have beds? It just kind of, I don't know where to start if I don't know where the baseline is.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I will say this, the CSU is open again, just so people know that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the city, other cities might have an interest in continuing that discussion from last year about Measure O funding and how that's being divvied up as well. I would assume that would come up when y'all start talking about mental health services.
No doubt. And with the new director of the county health department, and there's a lot of re-reckoning of how the county deals with all of that, all of those services. So it's not a bad time for the cities to try to figure out what message we want to give. And I think I would interpret it more broadly, like a discussion among all the members. What do we want to say about mental health services in the county? Where are we seeing things falling down?
Yeah.
I mean, because we're really supportive of our SAFE team, and we're trying to help people given our SAFE team, but if they don't really have any place to take people and or services to take people to, then there's something broken that maybe needs to be fixed there. And we want to be supportive of those teams that are helping us help others.
Understood, yeah. Okay.
So do you think I should try to get a motion together?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay.
That was the recommendation.
So, as I've written out, I'll read the list again. Top two are mental health services and education in Sonoma County, and then also on our list are revisiting the library GPA, mobilizing citizens, housing supply, and homelessness services. Somebody want to make a motion to provide me with that list of priorities to bring back to the Mayors and Council Members Association?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries unanimously. And that brings us to the city manager's report.
We have one more item, actually. Yeah.
Oh, here, I thought that was C. Thank you. Yes, thank you. So we have three potential letters of advocacy about pending legislation. Discuss Cal City's request for letters opposing SB 634, AB 647, and supporting AB 650. We'll start with the staff report.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So as you know, we get these, especially certain times of the year. Now seems to be legislative season, so they're just coming out hot and heavy now, with a lot of requests for either support or opposition for various things, working their way through the legislature. These were all Cal City requests for their member cities, which of course we're a member of. And the text of, sort of the summary text for each is in the packet. But real briefly, Assembly Bill 650 is intended to give cities more time for their housing element, as well as some more certainty on feedback from HCD, because it does seem to be a rush every cycle when all the consultants are sort of all struggling to push out housing elements all at the same time, and so it can just be a challenging time, and so have some advance time would be very helpful. Senate Bill 634, civil and criminal penalties. So this legislation seems to want to take us back to the Boise decision days, where the cities literally couldn't do anything about homelessness. And the idea is, well, I mean, we've come a long way. The state has come a long way. Locally, we've come a long way in how we deal with that issue since the Boise decision. As you know, that was subsequently reversed, and so now, it's possible to do civil and criminal penalties. But I think the point is that you really want a balance on how you can manage these issues and not have some tools just completely taken off the table, because it's hard to manage these complicated issues with only half the solution sometimes. And then AB 647 is a proposed housing bill that would allow single-family zoned lots to build up to 8 units on them. And then, of course, each one of those units have the ability to do ADUs as well, so it could be quite a development on a single-family lot. And there would be no, height limits, density requirements, or parking standards. So basically, it would be CEQA exempt, right? So anyway, as I mentioned earlier, the state continues to hammer away at this kind of stuff, but I think they're kind of running out of things that make sense. At least Cal Cities doesn't think they make sense, and locally that seems like that would be a problem if that really were widespread. So that's it, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Any questions from council members?
What was the 650?
That's the first one. That's the one that.
Yeah, 650 is the region. It basically would provide 6 additional months on the front end for people to put their housing elements together. Okay. 650, okay. Yeah.
And I think doesn't also provide for the, how HCD to also provide comments in writing?
Yes, in writing and how to solve
Okay.
the deficiencies.
They actually tell you what you need to do to solve it, not just what's wrong, and good luck, try again. Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right, that's right.
At first, you don't succeed.
Right, right. Okay, no more questions? All right, let's open up the public comment. We'll start in the chambers. Not seeing any members of the public here. We'll go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, speaking to our Zoom attendees, please use the raise hand icon to make a public comment on this item. Seeing no hands, Mayor Ford, that will end public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so back to council discussion. Anybody have any discussion about the recommendations? Okay. If not, anybody wish to make a motion?
Let's see.
Well, it just says discussion.
Yeah, adopt a motion
There we
authorizing the
go.
mayor to sign and transmit the 3 attached letters. I had to read through all
Right,
of them.
yep. Do you so move?
I so move that.
Second?
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that carries 5-0. And now can we do a city manager's report?
Yeah. Now I can do a city manager report. So an update on some projects. As you probably noticed around town, the sidewalk gap closure project is restarted now with the warmer weather and should be substantially complete by the end of the week. The pathways are formed and there's doing backing and finishing that project, so we're almost at the end there. Work is expected to restart soon at Putnam Park with grading and trenching for utilities. So with some rain, the contract got extended a little bit, but it should be, the contract is currently due to be done by mid-June. So I'd expect things to start moving quickly out there. And then the city's well number 3 was refurbished and has a brand new submersible pump, which is expected to last hopefully up to 9 more years. So that's good. Before the weather starts warming up, that well's back in service. Well, it will be shortly. They're just commissioning it right now and doing the required sanitations and water testing and stuff. But once that's done, we'll be good with that well. And as I mentioned last time, we have some items coming up in the near future. We have a code cleanup ordinance. It's a variety of things that we have encountered over the last year that we're going to bring back in one fell swoop. And then Redwood Row went to Planning Commission last night. That's the development on Highway 116 adjacent to Lowe's. So I would expect that to be coming to the council in May, so you'll be seeing that soon. We're also working on the Cotati Villages 1 and 2 affordable housing agreements, so that'll be also coming to council soon. And then Flayhaven Estates, we're also working on the affordable housing agreement there, and that's the housing development on Old Highway, kind of just south of Clothier. And they've submitted improvement plans, and they seem to be moving forward, so, more on that soon. 120 East Cotati Avenue, that's the joint project that we're doing with the affordable housing developer. That should be going to Planning Commission here shortly, and then we'll be following with a council meeting here. And then lastly, sort of in the near term, is the transit-oriented community zoning ordinance. So we had the Santero plan, which as part of that work, we did the environmental CEQA work for East Cotati, basically between the Laguna and Santero Way. So it's a rezoning process, and so we'll be seeing that in the near future as well. This coming Saturday is our annual Cotati Community Yard Sale from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So that's in the Cotati room behind City Hall. So if anyone's looking for some great items at affordable prices, now's the time to come on down and look through what we got. And unsold items are donated to Redwood Gospel Mission, and the funds that are raised go to support the Recreation Department and scholarships for youth. And then this Saturday at the Veranda Flitter Ranch is all about herbs. It's a workshop from 10 a.m. to noon, so you can learn about herbs, the flavors, practical applications, healing properties, and the many common herbs that you can take home from the ranch. So that's also this weekend. And then the following weekend, we have free compost giveaway. It's a monthly free compost giveaway at the ranch from 10 a.m. to noon each day. And that is a partnership with Zero Waste Sonoma. We offer free compost there for the community. And then continuing through the spring is our Sandy Loam Early and Release Enrichment Program from noon to 5 for children kindergarten through grade 5. And it includes farm and nature education, art, homework time, yoga, and more. And then there's a bunch of summer camps and farm camps, theater camps, and coding camps coming up. So as we get closer to that, you'll see more information. But that's it. But happy to answer any questions if the council has any.
Any questions for the city manager? Okay, we'll move on to city council member reports. I'm going to start down at this end again.
All right. On April 10th, Sylvia and I went to the multi-chamber event at the Sonoma Mountain, Sally Tomatoes, and it was very well attended. I heard there was over 250 people. I did meet a couple ladies who were at our farmers market last June, coordinating kind of a pride information, and they're going to be back this June, so I'm going to reach out to them to see if there's anything we can do to support them in their effort. Then that evening, we were all at the Sonoma County mayors and councils in Sebastopol. That was very interesting. Monday the 14th, I did a ride-along with Officer Yo, who's the newest officer, second day out by himself, and also with Ryan and Dolly, spent an evening with them. Then on the 16th, I tagged along with Laura, and we had a tour of the recycling center in Santa Rosa from Celia. It's very interesting to see that. And then I also met with Jen Ryan at the library to talk to her about her needs and how we can support them, and particularly around visibility. I'm going to see if we can get them to come to at least one of our farmers markets this summer. And then Laura and I had a 2x2 with the superintendent that day as well. And then, of course, on the 17th was our pathway graduation with Ryan, and Sarah. So those were kind of my activities.
Go right ahead.
Yes, on the 10th, April 10th, the multi-chamber mixer at Sally Tomatoes. That evening, the mayors and council members meeting in Sebastopol, there was a presentation by SCO's director, Amy Carter. And then April 17th, the Pathways Leadership graduation at the Roanoke Park Community Center with many of you. On the 21st, the SSU Roanoke Park and Cotati Mutual Agreement signing that we did. Also, just to announce that Monday, May 5th, is the Cinco de Mayo Festival in Roseland, so everyone's invited to attend that event. And also Saturday, May 10th, the Progressive Tribal Alliance is holding a Native Arts Festival in Windsor, so attend if you can. That's what I had. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just continue down the line. I was also at that Mayors and Council Members Association meeting, including the board meeting proceeding, at which we talked about this public messaging idea that led to our earlier agenda item, as well as the presentation from Amy Carter from the County Office of Ed. I got to represent the city as mayor at the Pathways to Leadership graduation and congratulate the graduates. Seems like a great program. People seemed very happy to be, very happy to have done it. I was about to say very happy to be done, but that's not what I meant. So, and it was a fun event. And then yesterday, the MOU signing at Sonoma State with that MOU that you all approved between us and Roanoke Park and Sonoma State. I had to recuse myself from the decision, but I could do the ceremonial thing of signing the paper. That's all I've got.
Okay, let's see. On 4/9, I attended the Marin-Sonoma Mosquito Vector Control District. We had a lot of resolutions that night. We unfortunately lost one of our members who passed away from cancer, so we did a resolution for him and his family. We had 2 20-year employees that we did resolutions for. We had also 2 long-term, a 20-year and a 17-year-old retirements, so people tend to stay very long there. And then we worked a little bit on the committee's appointments for next year. I also attended mayors and council members on the 10th. And on the 14th, I attended a Zoom meeting with Mike Thompson and Jared Huffman. It was a really interesting meeting. They basically said that, you know, kind of we need to do what we can for ourselves, that people are really just trying to keep their heads down low at this point. And there's a lot of things that have been put out there that are being clawed back, and that they are doing what they're doing and waiting for the courts to tell them that they can't do whatever it is that they've done, and that's sort of what they're dealing with. But there's a lot of things like even like fire resiliency funding that are important to California that will likely be taken away. So that was very it was kind of a sad meeting, but they said the most important thing for us to do is to keep the lines of communication open. So if we have things that we need to get unstuck, to give their offices a call, and they'll help if they can. On 4/14, I also attended the SCTA meeting, and the biggest thing on that really impacts people has to do with the times for the new lanes, because we're getting really, really close to getting those lanes completed. And we were kind of all over the board with Marin and Sonoma having very different things, both northbound and southbound, and so they need consistency. So they looked at a lot of different options, and it looks like where they're landing on will be 5 to 10 a.m. in the morning, and 3 to 7 p.m. in the afternoon for all the way through. Yeah, they had to expand that. It's interesting because when they look at the studies, I guess the congestion periods seem to be from 6:15 in the morning to 9:45, and in the afternoon between 2 and 6:45. So they want to kind of get ahead of those congestion periods so things don't back up, so they kind of get ahead of it a little bit. So that was the biggest highlight there. I attended the, let's see, Master Plan for Aging Caring Team, and we worked further on our looking at root causes for the items that we want to take on. So that was interesting. And then on the 17th, I attended the Sonoma County Waste Management Agency meeting, and the biggest thing there was that we are going to be putting out requests for proposals for software for the 1383 reporting. We went with a vendor when that first started, but now there are other vendors, so we're going to do a request for a proposal to see if we can't get, kind of a more intense.
Can you remind me, 1383?
1383 is the composting, the organics in the green can. So they're trying to see what they can, what's out there. They might stay with who they have. There's no problems with what they have, but now since there's other vendors, they felt that it was worthwhile to do that. I also attended the Pathways to Leadership graduation. Thank you for your support with that. That was wonderful. And the SSU MOU signing. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Just to add on a little bit about the 2x2 meeting, education committee meeting, the school district is going to partner with Cotati and Rohnert Park to do an evacuation drill on October 16th this year to coincide with the National Great Shakeout earthquake simulation. And they wanted to just get some practice communicating with Rohnert Park, Public Safety, and Cotati PD. So they're going to have the two sites that are going to do a full evacuation. It's just going to be kindergarten and pre-K, but they've chosen Thomas Page Academy for one of the evacuation drills, just the kinder and pre-K. And then another, I don't remember what the other school is, but another school in Rohnert Park. And our police chief attended a small group meeting with them. And the 2x2 members are going to be adding a meeting to our schedule to do these small group, work group planning sessions for the evacuation drill thing. So that's an area of partnership between the jurisdictions, and hopefully that'll lead to us just flexing our muscles of getting better at working together on things.
Great, thank you all. Was there any public comment on non-action agenda items? I'm sorry, not was there. Let's open public comment on non-action agenda items. Go to Zoom.
Thank you, Mayor Ford. Once again, Zoom attendees, please use that raise hand icon to make a public comment. The first hand is from Lori Alderman. You have the floor.
Well, you did get city business done, didn't you? You went and talked among yourselves. You talked about everybody else in the world except the Cotati citizens and how you do actions against them, how you hurt them, how you ignore them. And these are really bad actions actor going, and it's not the first time. This has been going on for years of people. There's been a long line of succession of people who have had this experience. I'm just one of the few, the latest. You need to change your ways. That's it. You need to have meetings on how to get public input. You need to have a future agenda item of Brown Act. You need to have a future objective of ADA disabilities and how to, what is required, instead of telling people that it might, might be giving it as a, to a friend for all they know. This all needs to change. You're ruining this city, the heart of the city, over your selfish goals for county. You don't care. You don't care who you hurt. I'm tired of it. None of you belong up there. If you can't care about the people right in front of you and the needs of the people right in front of you. That's it.
Thank you.
Mayor Ford, that will end public comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now, what I really meant to say, was there any information received after the agenda was posted?
There was not. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And with that, we're adjourned.